The Eccentric Family is the kind of show that should have been critically acclaimed upon release. Practically everything about its presentation is impressive. It's got sharp writing by the author of Tatami Galaxy, and gorgeous visuals that match the creativity of Miyazaki at his finest. Honestly, it seems unthinkable that a show like this would fall into obscurity, but it did. Just looking online, there are only 2 or 3 videos that attempt to critically engage with the show at all. The peak of its coverage was an article by Kotaku, which is Kotaku. On my anime list, the 2nd season is currently situated behind 30 other shows this season. I'm not sure when it happened, but I think I've stumbled into hell. So if you could take a moment, I'd like to talk about the Eccentric Family. Why do I love it as much as I do? And why do I think you should check it out too? I'm Sir Hatsley, and this is Hatsley's Anime Talk.
Yay!
Of course, I'm not the only one who loves the show. It recently earned 2nd place on a poll on Reddit discussing what the best shows of the season are, only being beaten out by My Hero Academia. If I were to narrow down its appeal to a single sentence, I'd say that the show consistently delivers the most fun experience it possibly can, using all of the tools at its disposal. I realize that calling the show fun isn't the most critical opinion, but I'll get to that later. Within the first 2 minutes of the Eccentric Family, the director makes his intentions very clear. While the main character delivers a brief monologue on the setting and cultural context, the visuals provide an excellent introduction to the lore. Almost immediately, we learn about the Tanuki population of Kyoto, and the show cleverly informs us of their ability to disguise themselves with some simple cuts. This whole sequence flows together without a hitch, giving the impression that the town of Kyoto never really stops. If I swapped out the music, you'd easily be convinced that you're watching the opening for Durarara. I've always been a fan of stories that emphasize their settings as much as their characters, and the writer of the Eccentric Family specializes in this type of storytelling. In fact, all of his stories take place in the city of Kyoto. If you've watched the Tatami Galaxy, and you should watch the Tatami Galaxy, then you're probably familiar with his work. And as much as I love Masaki Yuasa's presentation of Kyoto, I feel that the director of the Eccentric Family had a stronger idea of what the original writer was trying to convey. Shots frequently have an absurd amount of depth to them, especially in what's normally a flat medium. In the backgrounds of exterior shots, well-disguised CG pedestrians remind us that this is a real place where real people live their daily lives. Every interior has its own unique personality, and each and every background represents a real place in Kyoto. Of course, the setting isn't just eye candy. Kyoto is strongly correlated with traditional Japanese culture and beliefs, which actually form a huge part of the story. Sent made a great video that explains how the show uses culture to elevate the narrative, and I highly recommend watching it. He covers a lot of the cultural context which will be necessary if you want to fully appreciate the show. Now, a good setting isn't worth much if the characters aren't good. Luckily, the Eccentric Family has a spicy cast of characters. But these aren't just your standard anime archetypes. Each character is defined by some fun gimmick, and given plenty of depth as the series progresses. Highlights include the main character's ex-fiancée, who disguises herself as random furniture to hide her face. Chunibyu Mom, who disguises herself as a handsome shoujo prince. Frog Bro, who disguises himself as a frog and listens to the wishes of those who stop by his well. And last, but certainly not least, Ben 10. Ben 10 is one of the highlights of the show. She's a whimsical woman who can bend the world to her will. Beautiful, yet mysterious. Sultry, yet refined. As a child, she was abducted by a Tengu, and despite being a mere human, she was raised to be the Tengu's apprentice. Though she laments losing her simple human life, she is set on her path to becoming a Tengu. She now spends her days gracefully flying through the skies of Kyoto, searching for whatever seems fun, and stealing the hearts of every man who sees her, including Yasaburo's. Also, she ate his dad, and now she wants to eat him. Seriously, the appeal to Ben 10's character cannot be understated. She is a terrifying source of tension throughout the entire series, masquerading as a fairly simple love interest for the main character at first. Within moments of her appearing on screen, her telltale theme begins to play, and you know something's going down. Her presence demands attention, and few other characters in fiction are capable of eliciting such a powerful reaction just by showing up and not saying anything. She does what's fun, and what's fun for her might not be fun for anyone else. For example, eating the main character's dad. That's pretty fun. She's really a neutral player in terms of the narrative. She's neither hero nor villain. As I've said, the show's main goal is to be as fun as possible, so Ben 10 as a character is used to brutally kill any stale moments with an overabundance of intrigue. And to add icing on the cake, the character designs, done by the author of Sayonara's Itsubo Sensei, are incredibly distinct. The main cast is easily recognizable whether in Tanuki form, human form, or something else entirely. They are simple enough to animate well, but complex enough to have their own visual personality. It's difficult to put it to words, but the design on the main character's vest makes me feel things I didn't know I could feel. Seriously, that just looks awesome! Not only do these characters look good, they sound good too. The voice cast does an exceptional job bringing them to life, with Mamiko Noto standing out in particular. The end result of everything I've talked about so far is an instant appeal to the characters and setting of the Eccentric Family, and this forms the basis for what will become an incredible slice of life series. Within moments of the show beginning, you're already sold on the characters and setting. They are interesting enough that just watching them get along with their everyday life is a perfectly enjoyable experience. However, the show doesn't use that as an excuse to be lazy. As I've said before, the everyday life of Kyoto is frantic and fun, so the characters couldn't just sit around all day doing nothing. No, instead they set out on a series of hectic adventures that usually culminate in the kind of magical spectacle that one would expect from a Ghibli film. Take for instance one episode, where the titular family becomes engaged in naval warfare with a rival family. Except instead of being in the sea, they're floating over the skies of Kyoto during the climax of the Obon Festival. Instead of shooting cannons, they're shooting fireworks. Instead of the boat, they're in a floating tea house. And Benten's just sitting there to raise hell. I love this! In terms of writing, each episode is tightly paced, and many of the stories attempt to convey some pretty interesting ideas. One episode brings into question what it means for humans to be at the top of the food chain, and what obligations that gives us. Another episode introduces a character who literally escapes from a painting of hell. The surreal nature of these adventures pulls us even closer to the characters, as we experience the magic of Kyoto with them. Sadly, slice-of-life anime are frequently accused of being pointless and lacking in thematic depth. Eccentric Family laughs in the face of this conclusion by using its very structure as a slice of life to support what could be considered the show's main thesis. What's fun is good. A simple conclusion, but one that the show is dedicated to proving at every opportunity. When the show eventually does take a break from this mystical slice of life, it tells a story that is deeply tied to the characters and the traditions of this fantastical Kyoto. By combining both of the elements that make the show appealing, and weaving in a strong emotional backing and a hint of magic realism, it reaches an emotional finale that makes some bold claims about why we seek enjoyment in our everyday lives. When I finally finished the show, the smile that had been stuck on my face since the start of episode 1 suddenly became a lot more meaningful. I realized that all the fun I was having was kind of the whole point of the show. Listen, I really love this show. If you know what it's like to have a strong emotional connection to a piece of media, you should know how frustrating it is when it feels like nobody else cares about it. So, please, check out the Eccentric Family. If you enjoy it as much as I do, make your own video analyzing why you liked it. If you didn't, make a video saying that it's worse than Sword Art Online. I'm sure that'll get a lot of clicks. However you feel about it, I think we can all agree that this show tries something different, and it does so with grace. The writing is technically competent, and the animation is high quality. I think I can argue at least those 2 points with a fair amount of objectivity. I'm saying this because the series of novels that the show is based on is about to release its 3rd and final installment. It would be heartbreaking if the story was unfinished, but that 3rd season needs to get its funding somehow. So if you want to have a good, fun time, be sure to check this one out.